Good morning, and welcome everyone in this space and those joining on live stream to this Easter morning service. It's so lovely to see all of you with your hats and bonnets. You look wonderful. Happy Easter. I'm Mari Magaloni Ramos. I'll be your worship associate for this morning's service, and I'm joined on the chancel by our beloved senior minister, Reverend Vanessa Rush Southern. We're supported this morning by many volunteers and staff who provide our presence online, greet people, bring these gorgeous flowers. Athena, you really outdid yourself. Wow. And they help to keep our space functional and beautiful and care for our children and youth. Gratitude to all who help us create our space so we can gather in community each week. For those of us attending on live stream, please know that someone is monitoring the chat to answer questions and help with any issues. If this is your first time, thanks for joining us. If you would like to receive a copy of our weekly email newsletter, which includes a link to the order of service and our Sunday live stream, you can fill out one of our connections forms, which can be found in a pew in front of you and also available through a link in the order of service and video description. Our Easter service is entitled, What Does Resurrection Look Like? So now, let's enter into sacred time together by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We invite those of you at home to light your own candle or chalice if you have one, and invite you to please say the words of the chalice lighting with me. They are printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
If you could rise in body and spirit, and open your gray hymnals to hymn 361, our hymn of the month, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
And now let's greet one another. Reach out to someone you don't know, someone whose bonnet you like. Let's regather. And while we regather, because this is this year, this is my attempt to get you to regather. Because this year, eggs are so scarce that 2 people told me this year that people are using small potatoes instead of eggs, and marshmallows, which you can eat and retain the color. So in honor of this, before we hear something sublime and beautiful, I thought I would give you a couple of egg jokes. Why did the egg go to school? To get an education. What do you call an unconventional Easter egg? Egg-centric. Why does the Easter Bunny have such a good complexion? He exfoliates.
I want my money back.
Draco needs time to get up to the organ. So let's give her a round of applause for all the beautiful work she does. Yay! And to the bell choir. Yay!
You have to be in shape to be an organist here. And we haven't yet got the zip line installed, but that's coming. I do want to say a little bit before we say our unison covenant together that we live in a world that sometimes acts as if the only reason we make commitments in our lives and keep them is for money or prestige or legal obligations, things externally that bind and call us forward. But institutions like this community are ones that are living proof for almost 175 years that what people actually give their lives to are things that they commit out of the depth of their own hearts. Love, commitments of the heart, made and kept because they're important to us through time. Marriage is a covenant, and this community is bound by one. So let's say together some of the promises that are in our order of service, just some of the promises that we make and keep together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
On September 11th, 2001, I was in New York City co-sleeping with my newborn son, Max, when I was awakened by the sound of endless sirens. My husband, John, had already left for the morning. He was in the habit of meeting a friend for coffee at the top of the World Trade Center before heading to his office. On this particular Tuesday, John's friend, who also had a newborn son, had called to cancel their morning meeting because his baby had slept through the night for the very first time, and he wanted to enjoy breakfast with his wife. John's friend worked in the second tower. He arrived just as the first tower came down and was able to get away. Had it not been for a newborn baby sleeping in for the first time in his life, we would have been two more families forever altered by the events of the day. I've always been a fiercely self-motivated person. When I want something to happen, it almost always happens. But that attack plunged me into a sludge of thick grief, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get myself out. I remember looking at Max and feeling guilty. I felt too sad, too small, too incompetent to be a mother. One evening, after days of sitting alone at home crying, out of desperation, I put Max in his carriage and went outside. There were candles and people everywhere. Vibrant murals and amateur sculptures memorializing lost loved ones had sprung up while I had been underground. I saw poems taped to walls. There was music everywhere. I made my way to Union Square Park, where some rowdy students were sitting atop a sculpture of George Washington on his horse. They had covered it with flowers and hung a banner with a peace sign on the horse's chest. I noticed a brightly dressed young man zigzagging through the crowd, greeting random people. When he reached me, he looked me in the eyes and said, "You know, we're gonna be all right." He put something in my hand and left. It was a little purple heart made out of tissue paper. While I had been subsumed by grief, this young man, this gentle butterfly, had endured and had been pollinating the neighborhood with hope. I was overcome. I wondered what vital force had set him in motion. What instinct made him so able? What fueled his audacious clarity? That kindness towards others, kindness, delicate as tissue paper, can deliver us in the face of such wreckage. I remember some conversations back then reflecting on how it had taken the aggressors several years to plan the attack, but how it had only taken an instant for people in the towers to reach for each other's hands. I looked at my baby. He was calm amid the din. I remembered the first time I heard his hungry voice call out to me. I found a place to sit, took him out of the carriage, and held him close for a while, grateful to kiss his little head. Then I put him back in the carriage and headed toward a vigil.
Our offering this morning is for the Minister's Discretionary Fund, a fund that Reverend Laura and I use throughout the year to pay for those things that aren't otherwise in our budget, which can be everything from a present to thank a lay leader, or flowers in a hospital room, or a plane ride home to make it to your father's funeral that you couldn't attend otherwise, and dozens of other small acts that enrich and salve one another's souls during the year. Thank you in advance for your generosity. The offering will be both given and gratefully received. I don't know about all of you, but this has been a particularly hard week for me. And one thing I notice about hard weeks is that they sit hard on the body. They show up in upset stomachs and headaches and sleepless nights. And so I want us to start this time of prayer and meditation to just first invite us all to befriend our bodies again, to breathe. Let the story we tell about what's going on in the world, set it aside and just breathe. Feel your heart, this incredible muscle that starts beating 6 weeks after conception and continues unabated if we're lucky. Well, certainly for as long as we live. Since if it stops, we don't. And the gorgeous blessing of this body that holds us and allows us to walk into another day, the spring that we've come alive to here in San Francisco. And awake to all the messages in the world that we can also set aside. So let's enter into a time of prayer together. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, with so much that is conditional in the world, so much about what you and I do or have or don't do or have. May this be a space in which we can do nothing, forget our possessions or lack thereof, and know we are beloved, welcome. Spirit of life and of love in a world of so much stacking and ranking, of the best and the worst and all the quartiles in between. May we know in our bones that we are met here without a measuring stick. That we're held and loved for the fullness of who we are, as we are. Spirit of life and of love, we bring to this time and place everything in our arms. All that we have lost and grieve, and the heaviness of grief. All those things that are locked away in tombs and sealed with a stone, it feels like we cannot move. May life be breathed into what aches in us, and healing begin. Spirit of life and of love, we also bring here our unapologetic joy. Maybe we have fallen in love for the 100th time with someone who may or may not prove to be the one. Maybe today we are alive with pastel and flowers, wanting to dance in the streets. shaking the bonnet on our head, yes, to the world that's met us, pulling the marshmallow chick from our pocket, invited to taste the sweetness of all of it, of all of life's stunning possibilities, small and grand. There is so much to life, to finding a way to be as we are and stay fully alive and more fully alive to ourselves and the world. May this spring spirit of life and love, this stubborn world, and our hearts longing to be free, find this season the invitation written in our palm to Easter's resurrection party, and discover we know the way there. And be blessed. And now we open time for silent reflection, a chance to bring to it all we seek or need to name or be present to. And in this Easter time, we also make space to acknowledge those that might not be with us, that we might feel particularly missing in this time, whether they are lost from this world or just far away, holding in our hearts, sending love and prayers of gratitude and yearning toward. We can do so by placing our hand across our chest or standing in silent witness for the grief that's always present, a legacy of love. I invite us into silence together. Those of you who know me know we don't ever get to start with Easter without a step back in time. Because Easter doesn't make sense without a trip back in time, a couple of days in the story of this week, to the greatest misnomer of all holy days, Good Friday. Good Friday is always a fresh and relevant story. In June, it will be 30 years since I was ordained, and there has not been a year in those 30 years that we haven't lived in some Good Friday world somewhere, often somewhere close at home as part of the story. The story, after all, is about a particular event and a universal one, like all good stories. In this story, as I'm sure you all know, a beloved, cherished, sacred life, the life of a man named Jesus, someone who was good and spoke the truth and modeled a beautiful and courageous life, a divine life, was killed. And for all the wrong and hard-hearted reasons that human beings, with all our false gods and unexamined choices and brokenness and petty egos, find a way to destroy and reject what is good in the world so often when it shows up. We killed a holy and sacred life when it showed up among us, the story says, and the sky was rent that day. God had promised never to send any more floods after Noah, not to destroy humanity. And we are lucky on Good Friday that God keeps God's promises. I'm not sure we're always worthy of it. Anyhow, but this is an ancient story. It's old, it's dusty, it's irrelevant, it's kind of quaint, isn't it? I mean, is anything good in danger of being forsaken in 2025? Are there any mobs in our Jerusalems destroying what is good? Is anyone innocent being sentenced without due process? Or sent to be tortured by a king who loves power and lacks the humility to listen and heed legitimate criticism in order to be more worthy of the calling of leadership? The holy obligation of leadership? Is anyone or anything of value in danger of being trampled on because too many people do nothing? Good Friday worlds are hard places to live in, always, and sometimes more relevant than others in our human history. So, we can imagine the setting for today's part of the story. It's dawn. The sun is breaking, and with it, the Sabbath restrictions lift. And Mary Magdalene and another Mary, mother of James, perhaps come with spices they've bought in the market to anoint the body of Jesus. They arrive at the cave where Jesus' body was laid in a rough tomb with a rock rolled across its entrance, I guess probably to keep animals out at night. And we can imagine that they come, as we even feel, full of searing grief at all they have witnessed and at a loss from which they will never fully recover. They come to do the only thing that they can for this person they have loved, this last act of love, to anoint the body for proper burial according to their tradition. And what do they find when they arrive? The rock has been rolled back, but the tomb is empty, just just the fabric it was wrapped in left behind. Their first thought, as probably would be ours, is that the tomb was desecrated and robbed in one more intentional blow to their beloved. But we are told in the story that they see, depending on the version, you read one or two shining figures appear or present, and these angelic figures say that there is nothing to weep about, that the Jesus that they love lives on. In one gospel, in fact, Mary meets Jesus. In others, the disciples will meet him on the road to Emmaus or on a beach. Some of them will be told by a man how to catch fish by throwing the net into the waters. Encouragement to keep going on and gathering food and nourishment for their people, for the people they will gather to them. And they know this person they meet, all of them, as the Jesus who was in the tomb. And in this tradition, the teachings and the movement behind this person and those who believed in him, it will go on, right? Despite future persecutions, teachings to love thy neighbor as thyself, to not cast the first stone, to forgive 7 times, to challenge empire with truth, no matter the price. Moreover, people who live these teachings will say again and again that they have met this God, this prophet, this healer in their lives in infinite ways. They will speak of meeting him in prayer, in visions, with healing. King would hear the voice at his kitchen table in morning prayer. The morning he was one of many afraid for the life, and rightly so, of his family. This very church was built by people who held this story central as the anchor and one of the guiding north stars to their own life choices: to fight slavery, to fight for women's suffrage, in more recent times to affirm the worth and dignity of all couples and all genders, to welcome and support asylum seekers fleeing violence, to serve our neighbors as we do again today, and navigate whatever it is that life brings us as we do again today. So Easter is the unbelievable story of resurrection against Good Friday's attempts to annihilate. And the bad news is that Good Friday repeats again and again through human history. And the good news is that so does Easter. What does that mean, Easter repeats? What is resurrection? What does it look like when it shows up in the world? Does it still? Perhaps because this is such a big holy day and holiday, I have to admit, I feel like I owe you all a big miracle story. I mean, another one besides the story of Jesus. But I think I want to steer another way. I mean, I also hope for big miracle stories. But I wonder if it's better for us to see resurrection in smaller places and everywhere. The Reverend Victoria Safford, meditating on resurrection years ago, goes first to nature, which of course is why Easter, which, whenever it did happen, was nonetheless scheduled in the Western Hemisphere to happen in springtime. Safford writes of resurrection, "Have you seen the trees? Have you seen the maple buds, the magnolias swelling, poplars, the first lacy pale sprays across the shoulder of the hills, the forsythia, and those 3 small flowering perfect crabapple trees in the park? Strong little trees begging children to climb them and get lost for a while in their magical pink canopies. Did you smell the rain this week and the muddy, ready earth receiving it? Did you smell the musty, lusty, moldy pile of leaves all thawed now and underneath the moist and living earthworms wide awake? Earth speaks to us of resurrection. God speaks to us through all God makes and moves through. Forest fires burn, and it is barely cool, and new shoots that had no sun to grow in a mature forest take that moment to claim life and make the world green again. Life will hear no, no. Dandelions push through the concrete streets as a reminder of what will not hear no. And there's more around us that speaks of resurrection. Safford asks, can we admit, however carefully at first, however foolish it may sound, that once or twice in our lives, perhaps over and over, tumbling over, we have seen events miraculous? Choose the word you will, whatever words you need. If miracle cloys, try unexpected, surprising, unanticipated, a second chance. Even that modest definition of resurrection opens a door we can walk through. Resurrection of spirit, of life, in the ways we feel it and know it. It's the moral equivalent, the human equivalent of the dandelion that comes through the concrete in the sidewalk. It's the person who came to me last week after service to share with me that they had ended a marriage they were absolutely sure was dead, but that she and her spouse had found their way back to each other, and they were more alive to one another than ever before. That's resurrection. Resurrection is every one of us and everyone we know who has wrestled with an addiction and remade a life, one that was responsible and made amends, and then sponsors those who come behind them to remake their own lives. It's choosing forgiveness when we could hold a grudge and repeat the sins of our enemies. It's truth and reconciliation in South Africa. It's being a good parent when you weren't raised by one. Being generous when you know what it's like not to have enough and could stay in that place of scarcity. It's Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or any group that is started to prevent the pain or loss that they could not spare their own child or loved one. It's every nation that has reclaimed lands torn apart by war and reached into the literal rubble to bury the dead and rebuild. It is every veteran who served and suffered the price of war and testifies loudly about the need to do peacemaking and avoid war. It is telling the truth about who we are, and every time telling a fuller version of our history that honors all the voices, all the truths that we carry in our bones and are accountable for. Resurrection is facing climate dangers and seeing if we can, doing what we can to turn things around so another generation inherits a place as beautiful or as close as we can come to the place we inherited. It is each time we go solar or build for wind or plug in an electric car or bike. It is seeing where we have let things go awry, and after we weep, rising up to march, to speak up, to risk as generations before us did, and go after the dream again, whether the dream was and is beloved community, the city on a hill, the lady who welcomes all who are tired and hungry and yearning to breathe free. A world where we are each for each other all the time, and where we get that that world is actually the most selfish world and vision we can live into, because we are happier when we live in a world where everyone is for each other. It is when those with money and power lead the way. Thank you, Harvard. And it is when those without money and power lead the way. It is us. And this isn't soft theology. We start at Good Friday, my friends, to remind ourselves of what a life asked of us long ago and might again, how it can ask everything of us, strip us raw. But we wear bonnets today because the Easter story with its resurrected God asks the listener to wake up to all that might happen, to all that is happening, to look for opportunity, to listen for the chance to lean in to life and its resurrection, to look at the worst moments in our shared history, in our own lives, and find divine love pushing through to be alive against all odds, and then participating in it in every way we can, with every fiber of our being Easter people in a Good Friday world. And you and I, we will have to meet evil, as those before us have. And those who follow us will have to. We will have to be ready to meet it. Life is not a free pass from courage. It's not part of what we get. And let me say what you already know, that evil will have its victories. The old stories are clear and unambiguous on that point. Evil will have horrific and heartbreaking victories that numb the soul some days, that drop us to our knees. But we're called to remember, beloveds, that the ancient stories say also that those victories will not have the last word. That love is the reality that cannot be destroyed despite all efforts. That hope will burn through all dark nights and trying times and reignite the spirits of those who are faltering, including our own. And that we pay attention, because walking around with us all the time, we are told, is the power and presence of resurrection in nature, dropped into our hearts like grace some days, practiced until it is a habit, like picking up our socks, common as mud, the poet says, chosen again and again. Resurrection can be a form of stubborn moral resistance. Resurrection like water on a rock that wears down what tries to, for no good reason, to take away from this life and from this world all that is beautiful and true and good. And in this world, love and liberation and mutuality and second chances, sweet like chocolate, are hidden all over us, all around us, to find and to seize, scattered on the saint and the sinner alike. Increasingly, I am convinced that we human beings, in the moral order of the universe, we are going to keep being sent as souls to this earth until we finally give in to the good, convinced that we cannot destroy it, even at our worst, that we are like children that are just determined to test our parents, afraid and hoping both that the love that is there for us is bigger than all we can throw at it, and needing to prove it to ourselves again and again that love wins, and that we can lean into it and surrender to it. And for me, that's Easter's message, all of this. That is bonnet-worthy, that into this Good Friday world go blessings of courage and hope, that we step into it with endurance and committed to be for each other, that we roll up our sleeves and roll back the rocks on what we've given up as dead in the world, in our hearts, and trust what endures against the odds is not evil, though it will try, but love, life, liberated to love. And so I close with the words of Adrienne Rich, who wrote, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." Blessings, everybody. I love you. Happy Easter. Let us live resurrection. Amen. I invite us to sing a song that celebrates resurrection in our created earthly worlds. Let's sing hymn number 61. It's in your gray hymnal, Rise as You Are Able, in body, spirit, as we sing together. it up for our choir. They love it up there, partly because they can misbehave, no, I'm just kidding, but also they can float over us. But I don't know if anyone noticed, we don't have symbols in this church of anything but nature, but we do have 2 angels that are up in the corners up there. I don't know how many people have ever noticed them, but I've been particularly aware of them the last couple weeks. I invite you to be seated. Let me just tell you a little bit. Worship is over, but service begins. We take ourselves and our values out into the world. This week, we won't have our social hour outside, though the wisteria is blooming and it is stunning in the courtyard. Please come by during the week. But it's because Tenderloin Tussie is offering an Easter meal to our neighbors, another fabulous story of life that just sort of breaks through literally, the cement in our neighborhood, where a local resident, Tenderloin Tessie, offered a meal, her Thanksgiving meal, to a couple of people on the street, and then the next year bought 2 turkeys, and then it blossomed, and now serves meals here, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter to hundreds of people, and there are clothes for them to take if they need clothing and other services provided. So, and you can all volunteer if you'd like one year. So we give up our social hour so that we can welcome our neighbors in this beautiful tradition. If you want to serve neighbors as part of your way of blessing the world, we do have a Saturday morning food pantry. And oh yeah, you can't miss Hannah. Hannah, why don't you stand? In case you would miss Hannah, if she can see you through all those Easter eggs, can tell you more about it. And there's more, of course, online. And so you can find it on our website. So consider joining that. Next week is Earth Day. So we're going to celebrate Earth Day. But today is a meeting. If you want to join our kind of Earth Justice and Earth Ministry group, we're meeting after service. So please come and join us. There's details in your order of service. While Sierra is slowly making her way up, a symbol of life, giving life, the beauty of what we can hope for and expect in this community soon, to make an announcement. I want to just say that we have pledge forms. If you are among the few people who have not yet filled out your pledge form, please do so. They're on the end of the table that's right in the lobby to the right as you leave the sanctuary. We're very close. We're about 10% away from finishing with our goal having been met, and we're so grateful. So Sierra, you have something to tell us about today. Isn't she gorgeous? And her mom's here today with her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sierra Sparks. I've been a member here for about a year, almost and a half. And I'm also on the staff for Open Door Legal, which is a nonprofit here in the city providing legal services for about half of our low-income residents. Currently, we are in jeopardy of losing about 1/3 of our budget, thanks to proposed city budget cuts. So I would love to invite all of you to come to a hearing, as well as public comment that's happening this Wednesday at City Hall at 1:30. So if you're interested in joining or interested in hearing more about what's being proposed, I would love to talk to anyone about it. It's not only impacting general legal services, it's impacting hundreds of nonprofits across the city, including gender-based services, as well as community convening and financial capacity. So if you'd like to hear more, we will be handing out flyers in the back about the hearing as well as public comment, and I'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the flip side of it has information about the gala for Open Door Legal if you want to support it. Adrian, who founded it, wants to use San Francisco as his experiment, and then he hopes to replicate it across the country. So, for instance, 85% of all evictions are legal, but people who are evicted don't have the ability to get legal representation. And so Open Door Legal is really doing this incredible work to make the world equitable and a more loving place, so we can be part of that. That concludes our invitations. And so I am going to extinguish our chalice. But we are reminded that we carry, each of us, the flame that is the light of truth and the warmth of love and the fire of commitment with us when we leave this place. And if we need to, we can rekindle it next week when we get together again. Let's join hands as we say our final blessing on this Easter Sunday. Let's see how far we can connect. And now, in our comings and our goings, may the light of love shine upon us. Out from within us, be gracious unto us, and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen and blessings, everybody. Happy Easter.